Well, let's get started here. Welcome to our webinar, Credit Card Processing, the Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. I want to start by letting you know that we're going to go through this backwards kind of to start with. We're going to go from credit card processing, the ugly, the good, and then the bad. But you might, we're going to go actually from the ugly, the bad or okay, and then the good. Now, real quickly, if you got my first promotion on this, you saw the good, the bad, and the ugly. I called it the good, the bad, and the ugly because as Maurice and I were talking about credit card processing, I said, wow, that new kind of processing is pretty incredible. Really opened my eyes, and that's what made it really important to me that we have this webinar, that we bring this information to you. And then we started talking a little bit more, and we talked about that some of the ugly credit card processing that's still out there, and I was thinking, wow, that's good and ugly. And then so being me and what I do, I decided to tie it into the good, the bad, and the ugly. I said at first that the middle kind of processing really isn't bad, it's okay. The reality is, as I got going through this a little bit more, I decided that that middle kind of credit card processing isn't okay. I don't think it's okay at all. And Maurice is going to talk about that a little bit and why it's not, but really briefly why it's not is that there's two kinds of credit card processing in that okay. And most of you listening to this have okay credit card processing, what we're going to call bad here also. And that's credit card processing that is either just a swipe terminal from the bank, in which case Maurice is going to talk about some of the reasons that's bad, or it's credit card processing that tries to encrypt the credit card within your POS system. Again, if you have a POS system, that's probably what you have right now. And because the bad guys are getting better and better at being bad guys, that's no longer good either. So Maurice, let's get going here. Would you tell us what is ugly credit card processing? Oh, let me introduce you first. This is Maurice. He's in charge of our retail information systems here at American Retail Supply, in charge of all the POS guys and our tech support over there. So Maurice, tell us a little bit about ugly credit card processing, if you would.
Ugly credit card processing is anything that does not protect the cardholder's data. Anything that the bad guys can easily get the information from and use it to commit fraud and steal other people's money. Some of the best-known ones, or what everybody probably is used to from the past, is the knuckle busters. They took images of the credit cards. They, you'd put the card down, you'd put the paper down, you'd run that thing across, and a lot of times people would rack their knuckles on the board, and that's why it was called knuckle buster. But it actually grabs a complete image of the card with the full card number and everything, and people can use that to order stuff online, order over the phone, and it's everything they need to commit fraud. Another one is the older software that you may be using in your POS system. A lot of the older software didn't encrypt the card data, didn't do anything with it. It just took it and sent it across the internet, and anybody could grab it. Just grab the packet of information going across, and there's the full card information, the card number, your name, the expiration date, your CCV code, everything they need to commit a complete fraud and rob you blind of the money. The full card number.
When it comes, what's that?
Go ahead.
So what kind of older software? What do you mean by that? How old, for instance?
I've seen software. I would say if your software hasn't been updated or renewed in the last, say, 5 years, you're pretty likely that you could have that ugly software that would cause or enable people to easily get the card information.
So the ugly credit card processing is basically any credit card processing that leaves the number open anywhere in your store, whether it's in your POS system, whether it's a hard copy. It's basically somewhere there where somebody can look at it, somebody can find it and use it and create credit card fraud.
Exactly. It's easily found, easily obtained. There's no security involved in it, and when you're running with ugly credit card processing, you as the retailer are 100% liable for the fines, fees, and the losses.
Wow. So let me now. If you're out there and you're listening and you're like, I don't know if I have ugly credit card processing. What you want to do is contact Maurice. Maurice at AmericanRetailSupply.com. MAURICE at AmericanRetailSupply.com. Or you can give him a call on his direct line. What's your direct line, Maurice?
253-859-7321. Or they can get me at 800-426-5708, extension 1321.
Okay, good. So if you don't know, contact Maurice, and he can help you there. So let's move on to bad or okay credit card processing. Tell us about that. What's that all about?
Bad processing is basically, or okay, it does what it needs to. It provides some security, but it's not giving you any information. It's not. It's still leaving some security holes where people can get get the card information. So it does what it needs to, but it's not like a safe where nobody's going to get the information. It's just okay, as it says. Some of the okay processing are things like the terminal swipe. With a terminal swipe, yeah, it processes a card, but it's kind of archaic looking. You swipe it on your register. You do the transaction on your POS system or on your cash register, and then you go over to another machine to process the card. Kind of older looking. Also, how many people out there have run into where transactions for $7 and the manual input, because you can't automatically have it put in $70, you have to type it in, and it was supposed to be 7 and it ends up being 70. I've had it happen to me as a customer, and I've seen the customers who are or merchants who are doing that entry do it as well. So it can be very high error rates. It's also kind of, like it said, outdated. It's slow because you got to manually enter in. You swipe the card, then you got to type in the number, then you got to type in the card, last four on the card. There's a bunch of information, and then there's no reporting with it. So terminals are just kind of they do what they need to do, but they're lackluster, for the better word. Then there's your POS.
I need to tell you, my wife had a situation where she was bought something for $400 and some odd. Didn't find out until she got home that they entered it for $4,000 and some odd, and it was a bit of a pain for everyone involved. So go ahead, Maurice.
Yeah, that could be quite the headache. That's a lot. The other one is risky POS. What it says is risky POS. You can have where you swipe the card and it goes out to your processor, but the part where you swipe your card, you can get someone that gets on your computer and either puts a keylogger on the computer or a skimmer on there that grabs the information. And all it is a keylogger is just a piece of software that you go to some immoral website or something, or some website that somebody isn't really familiar with, and it downloads this little piece of software that you don't even know about, and it tracks every keystroke. And when you swipe your card, it's basically a keystroke.
Yeah. So somebody's getting into your system by just you being on the internet or whatever, and they're getting in there, or they're being proactive to come in with viruses, and they're basically putting, when you say a keylogger, this was really interesting to me, they're basically putting in a virus that basically grabs, whenever you're making a keystroke on your computer, and this may not be technically the way it is, but for those of us that aren't technically inclined, I think it's a pretty good analogy if it's not exactly right. But it basically says whenever there's a keystroke or data sent, you intercept this and send it to me. And then the software that they have says, whoa, here's the credit card number that's intercepting all of this information, millions and millions and millions of data things, whatever. But then when it gets a credit card number, it pops that out and says, whoops, hey, here's our credit card number. And you, as a retailer, even though your credit card system or your POS system has encrypted that, and you think it's all safe, while it's doing the encryption is when it grabs it. Is that right?
Yeah, actually it grabs it before, as you swipe it, before it makes it to your POS.
Yeah, so but that key log is basically some kind of, as it's going there, it has the computer basically has to do like almost a keystroke or whatever you want to call it again, but and that's when it grabs it, and that's when your POS system is at risk if your POS system is doing the encryption. And just to, up until a couple years ago, that was as good as you could get as far as trying to get away from this stuff. But then the bad guys figured out how to get in the middle of it. That's the whole problem here. Is that right, Maurice?
Exactly. And the bad side is they get complete track data that way, which again is, knowing the processing system how I do, complete card data is everything they need to do to rob you blind, the customer blind, and it's going to come back to, when they start doing the searches, back to you. Where was the leak at? Because they'll find it, and it always comes back to the merchant. I don't know how they do it, but they always are able to find where it was started from.
Really? Okay. And let's talk about PCI compliance, or should that come up a little later in our discussion?
We'll touch PCI in a moment.
Okay. Okay. Good enough.
Just some of the, with the risky POS, like we were saying, the keyloggers, you can get a skimmer. I wanted to touch base on that. Basically, what a skimmer is and this is more of something that's done within your in the store and less than a software thing. Is you put a little thing in between the keyboard and the computer, and it just takes somebody a little bit of computer knowledge, and everything you enter, anything you swipe, it records it on this thing. It's called a skimmer, and you take it home, or whoever did it takes it home.
So that's a bad guy.
It's not information.
Okay, so when you say you, it's not you, the business owner. It's you, the bad guy who works for the business owner.
Yes. Sorry about that.
Okay.
Yes, you're right.
No worries. So you've got some kind of crook that's working for you, and he puts in, what do you call it, a skimmer?
Yep.
Okay.
And a skimmer.
And then all of a sudden, go ahead.
The skimmer just grabs everything that you swipe through the keyboard. It's kind of like a keylogger, but it's done inside the business instead of a piece of software sending it to somewhere other in the country or what.
Wow. So even if you're being real careful about not going to any internet other than credit card processing with your computers, then this skimmer can get involved with stealing the credit cards, because you are actually seeing it, correct? I mean, at some point, your computer is seeing what this credit card information is, so they can then steal it. That's how it works, right?
Exactly.
Okay, good. Excellent. So we've got ugly and bad, and now we've got our white horse coming in like every great Western. And this was crazy when you told me about this. And this is why I wanted to make sure that we had this webinar, made sure everybody knew about it. And it's called end-to-end processing. Tell us about that, if you would, Maurice.
What end-to-end is basically end-to-end encryption. From the point the card is swiped to the point that your processor or the processor that works with it receives it, it's encrypted. There is no information where a skimmer can get it. There's no information where a keylogger can get it, because it's actually encrypted in the swipe device. And instead of being encrypted on the computer, it's encrypted in that handheld device. And I don't want to say it's foolproof, because nothing is, but it's just about foolproof of preventing any sort of fraud in your store.
Okay. Do we know of anybody creating fraud from somebody that has this?
No.
Or are you being extra cautious there? I don't think, we don't know of anybody able to steal this in any way, do we?
Not at this
time, do we?
No. I would say.
Yeah, and I think that's what you meant. We don't want to say it's foolproof, because the bad guys are always working at becoming bad guys, and who knows, they may come up with something. But this was crazy cool as far as I was concerned, and that is that your credit card, your POS system, nothing actually, as it's swiped, it's encrypted immediately. And so it can't be stolen. Absolutely the best thing that you can do on the market today. And the other reason that I think this is so good is that it just flat does not cost any more than other credit card processing. It doesn't cost any more. So why take the risks for both you and your customer and have the risk of fines, the risks of judgments, the risks of civil penalties, and all that, and the risk of losing your PCI compliance? This just gets the PCI compliance problem taken care of totally, and that is if you're not protecting your customer's credit card information, the credit card companies themselves can very well come after you and say you cannot process credit cards any longer, because basically that's an industry. The industry has actually gone and put in the requirements to be secure and all that type of thing, so that they don't have the government coming in and beating them up and making sure they do it. So this is end-to-end, no risk. That's incredible. Let's talk a little bit, if you could, what this also does. When you have, one of the things that if you have just the swipe from the bank, you actually have darn good security as far as anyone stealing your credit card information or that of your customers. But what you don't have is the reports to help you run your business. So let's talk a little bit about the reports to run your business that are available when you have good credit card processing. Go ahead and talk about that if you would, Maurice.
With the good processing, your reports give you information that will help you run your business. Gives you information. Should I be including Amex? Should I, who's committing fraud, or who's doing the most voids, or things like that. Some of the things that reports can do is consolidate the data over time for you. So you can see, say, a month at a time, am I getting more Visas and MasterCards over Amex? It gives you a good source of business information on how to run it. So the reports can get pretty detailed, combined with your, with the encryption, the POS, and give you what you need. You can be, so like let's say with chargebacks, when you run some of these reports from these processors, you can go and if they have it, allows you to be proactive on your chargebacks, so that you can go find the transaction in your history and then get the receipt and have it ready, so that you can be more proactive, get things done, and find the receipt, get it to the processor, so that you can say, hey, this guy was here, here's my signed receipt, and this is the information that I need to get paid.
So one of the things that happens with this being proactive on the chargebacks is that rather than waiting for the letter and taking all that time while your funds are being tied up, you can actually take care of that chargeback faster and make sure and get the funds back into your bank sooner. Correct? Is that what goes on?
Exactly. You can get you get your money faster when you're more proactive on the chargebacks. Also, with some of the reports, they're up to the minute, so you can go and, let's say you're on vacation in Hawaii and you want to know how much money is in the bank or what the processing is going on. You can get online and right to the minute as you're logging in, this is how much money I'm processing that day. This is how much I did yesterday, or whatever it is. So you can anticipate what your returns are going to be, or excuse me, your deposits are going to be into your bank, and know what funds and stuff you have available.
Excellent.
Also with the reports, you can run reports and sort them by card number to help you spot fraud. If you sort it by a card number and you see the same card number 6 times doing a lot of returns, well, that doesn't make sense. Why do I have 6 returns to the same credit card in, say, a 2-day period or a 3-day period? And that'll help you spot, well, whose card is this? Why is this happening? And you can also track back down to the cashier if your POS allows you to do it. So that way you can find out, is it the same cashier? Is it the same card? Who do you know? How do you know they're not putting it back on their card? So the reports are really important also to be able to help you spot fraud.
Yeah, and one of the things, and you can run those reports over time then too. So I mean, you could even do like sorted by credit card numbers over a month or two, or whatever. So it may not be somebody coming in with fraud every single day for you, but maybe they're doing it over a period of time, and all of a sudden you see, oh my gosh, this typically I have only, people return things once in a lifetime or once in a month or whatever, whereas here you see all of a sudden if you run it for a month and you see 10 returns by one credit card number, at least to ask some questions, and that's the big thing. And then tracing it back to a sale or charge back to a specific sale with a receipt and product for proof of purchase. Talk about that for just a second. I pretty well talked about it right there, but makes it a lot easier, right?
Yeah, it does, because then you can just, you get the, with the POS systems, you find the receipt, you have a copy of the receipt, you know what they bought, you have all the information you need to make an educated decision for what you're doing. You have a copy of the receipt, you give it to the processor, they pay you, you have a copy of the receipt of everything they bought, so you can be really detailed and so if the customer says, well, I was never at that store, you can say, well, you're at the store, this is how much you spent, and these are the items you purchased. And sometimes a customer can go, oh, yeah, I remember that now. I wondered where that came from. So when you get that kind of detailed information, it just, for chargebacks and for customer services, makes it that much easier and that much faster.
Yeah, well, I don't know about you. I do a lot of credit card processing because I do a lot for work, too. And almost, well, maybe every time, almost every time, certainly when I finally go back and I'm able, I call somebody and they say, well, that was for this purchase that it was like, oh, okay, of course, I did make that purchase. So if you can tie it back to a specific sale, those chargebacks are not nearly as hard to prove that the customer actually did buy them. You also have the signature, right?
Exactly. You'll have the signature. Yeah. So for the chargeback possibilities, it just, when you can trace it back, it makes that much easier for the customer to remember, oh yeah, I did get that, or just for covering your own information that you need.
Right. Good enough.
Also,
and what about auto settling? This was pretty cool.
With the end-to-end encryption, you can do what's called auto settle. So at like 3 o'clock in the morning, the end-to-end encryption goes and it knows it's 3 o'clock in the morning, batch is closed, settle my cards, so that every night they get settled and they get deposited into your account. A lot of processing and a lot of the terminal swipes, you have to manually go over and remember to settle, and then you have to work with errors if there are any. And the settling can be really monotonous. It can be quick, of course, but it can be monotonous in that there's a problem or that somebody forgets to do it. The other bad thing is if you don't settle daily and or somebody forgets to, let's say yesterday you did 25 credit card transactions, which is a low number for credit card transactions, but let's say you did 25 of them. You wait 24 hours, you went from a card present rate, which is a low rate, to a call-in rate or telephone rate, which is a higher rate because you waited longer than 24 hours. So you're paying more in fees and, in essence, losing money because of that, not having the auto-settle feature. Auto-settle settles every night for you, so you don't have to worry about that.
Yeah, well, that's the way I like business. I like business that kind of runs itself. And that's kind of what that sounds like to me. So we talked about the end-to-end encryption, some reports that help you run your business. This was also a really cool thing that I found out about. Now, also, this isn't by everybody. This is by the people that we recommend for good credit card processing, which is a company called Mercury. And talk about always up stand-in authorization first, and then talk a little bit about why we like Mercury. And this is one of the big reasons we like them, but we like them for a whole lot of other reasons. So talk to us about this, if you would, Maurice.
The always up is what it is. We know of processors, big-time processors, the big guys, that their systems have gone down. And when they go down, if you don't have some sort of stand-in or backup system, or your processor doesn't, you're not processing cards. Your customers are going somewhere else that they can pay with a credit card instead of in your store. So what Mercury has done is they have taken on some liability and created a system at their corporate office that stands in and allows us authorization up to a certain amount. And it's actually a pretty good amount, and when I talked to them and they explained it to me, but it allows that so that you're never down. Their system, the back end goes down, whether it be one of these big guys or whatever, their network, whatever. Mercury takes the risk and says, that's an okay card, we'll take it. That's an okay card, we'll take it. And they give you everything you need to do to keep running your business, and they take the liability of that if you get one card that's no good for, say, $50. And I'm just using a number here. They'll take that liability if it turns out after the back-end processor comes up and says, that card was no good. Mercury will take that liability for you, so you don't have to worry about it. You don't have to worry about not being able to take cards because some big-time processor that a lot of the other people use goes down and they have no backup system. So the always up standing authorization, basically, you don't have to worry about losing ability to process cards and losing money.
Yeah, and that when you talk about some back-end big-time processor, what you're talking about is that this goes back into, Mercury processes your credit card, but then it goes into this big system of that's all intertwined to actually finish up the processing, if you will. And we've all heard. I mean, we've heard about Amazon being down, MSN being down, credit card processors being down. It happens, but what's cool about Mercury is, let's say they'll give you a $300 stand-in authorization, so that if the system should go down, which it certainly shouldn't, but if it should, you can still process credit cards up to $300, and Mercury will give you the authorization, and they'll stand behind that. So that's pretty darn good. That's pretty good. And how about proactive troubleshooting? This is another thing that another reason that we like Mercury a lot.
What that is this is a two-prong approach, basically. Mercury contacts me. If you have a problem processing and it's something that you don't see and they see it on their back end, they send me an email and say, hey, this customer wasn't able to process this card for this reason, or they didn't settle for more than 48 hours or something like that. Their proactive troubleshooting alerts me to what's going on with your being able to run your business in the processing side, so I can reach out to you even before you even know, you, the merchant or the customer, even know there's something going on, and we can go, hey, let's take a look. Something's not right. We need to check on this.
Yeah, I just think that is the coolest thing. Maurice, for those of you listening, Maurice loves this too. It means that he can get to you in some cases before you even know you have an issue. Maurice is getting an email. Now, the customer usually gets an email too about the same time or at the same time. Is that how that works, Maurice?
Yeah, they usually get one about it's sent out. Usually I get a carbon copy of it, so I'm notified of it. And since you have my email, pretty much everywhere I go, I know about it right away.
Yeah, so maybe, I mean, you both get the notification, but maybe it's, I know Maurice checks his email all the time. So he checks it, you maybe haven't even seen it yet, but you get a call from Maurice and say, hey, I got this. Did you know this is going on with your credit card processing? This is what we really love. This is what we love when we can find somebody that we can refer you to that really helps us give you better service too. Sometimes when you get into, I'm not going to say, I don't know that we've had it in the past where the credit card processor blames the POS and the POS blames them and whatever. I imagine that, does that happen, Maurice? I mean, in the past, does that happen?
In the past, before we used Mercury, yes.
Okay.
The nice thing about working with Mercury is they will call. Like the emails are proactive. They'll also call if it's an urgent thing. They'll call and say, hey, we need help getting this customer taken care of. We work as a team rather than an individual company. Mercury works with us. They work we work with them to help the customers. And in the past, we've had where merchants have taken they call their processor. The processor says, that's not us, call your POS vendor. They call us. We look on there, and it's not obvious to us of what's going on. And we end up calling the processor anyways. With Mercury, they call us and we work together. There's no finger pointing.
Yeah. Well, and that has to do a lot with Mercury's entire way of marketing. One of the way Mercury, and which again, I'm just so glad we're dealing with them, that they work, is they try to get their referrals through point-of-sale computer people like us, so that their whole idea is that we're point-of-sale software experts and credit card processing experts. We're not just credit card processors. So the whole idea is that if you have software, they have the solution, that they have people there that are working with with POS software vendors every single day. They have experts in whatever POS software you have. Not every single one, but almost every one. One of the questions, some of you may or may not know that we're re-recording this because of difficulties with the audio in the first one. And in that first presentation here, we had someone ask, does it work with QuickBooks? And yes, Mercury does work with QuickBooks, and we can get you in touch with them and give Maurice a call. We can make sure that your integration with QuickBooks works perfect with Mercury. So again, you can email Maurice at American Retail Supply, and he can get you in touch with Amy at Mercury, and any other software. We can certainly find out whether they work with that or not. Proactive troubleshooting was huge, and the fact that with Mercury, we really feel like we have a partner, and this proactive troubleshooting was huge on that, in that, again, we're able to get on the problem and help you solve your problem sometimes before you even have one. So let's move on here. This is another one that integrating gift card processing with no fee transactions and no extra terminal. Talk about that. And again, this is something pretty unique to Mercury as far as we know.
Well, Mercury does gift card processing, and they do it for free when you're processing your regular credit cards with them. You don't need a separate terminal on the side. They have a lot of direct integration into different point-of-sale systems. We work, with RMS and have installed it on RMS for many customers. And even if you say have one of the old Casio type registers and you're looking for a reliable processor and want to do gift cards, they can do it on the terminal you have when you're processing with them. So they don't charge a fee, knowing that it's providing a service to help you do better in your business. Again, this is where the partner comes in, is they want to help you to grow and help you to run your business, and not just stand there with their hand out and have you hand them money.
Yeah, and that was pretty cool, because here's the reality. It doesn't cost the credit card company any more money to process a gift card transaction than if you don't do one. You're already set up. It does take some upfront work in getting the software to work and everything else. But what Mercury understands is that if you do more gift cards, you're going to do more total processes. If you do more gift cards, you're going to do more credit card processing. So they're like, so let's reinforce these people. Let's not charge them for the gift cards and help them make more money, which frankly makes Mercury more money too, because you're doing more credit card processing. It's a great partnership. How about next day funding, Maurice?
Basically, it's next business day, and it's deposited right into your account. Some banking requirements may be needed, but it's getting your money right away instead of having to wait 48 or 72 hours to get your money the next day, so that way you can have it available to run your business, pay your bills, whatever it may be.
Right, and that's not with everybody. You do need to run your credit card processing through a bank that they work with in order to get the next day funding. But again, we can get you in touch with Amy, and she can answer any questions that you may have on that. Again, just drop Maurice an email at maurice@americanretailsupply.com. And here's the big one. Not the big one. There's a whole lot of big ones up there, stand-in authorization, proactive troubleshooting, etc. But live 24/7 support, talk about that. I think it pretty much says it all by itself. But go ahead, Maurice.
Well, it's a lot of people think that 24-hour support, they're going to help me with my transaction problem. And it's a lot more than that. Mercury has staff that is trained in certain parts of each POS program to be able to help you process credit cards. And if you have a problem with your POS in processing that card, they have some people that are trained in specific portions of the POS to be able to help you. You're getting an error, the technical error trying to settle. You call them up. They have staff there that knows how to resolve a technical error. They don't know how to do a lot of the other in the POS, but they know how to resolve what's called a technical error or a duplicate batch message or something like that. Specific to processing in each POS, they have people trained to be able to walk you through or get connected to your computer and help you get things taken care of on the processing end of it. They're not a POS support company, but they, like I keep saying, have people specifically trained just for the processing portion of it, so they can help when somebody else isn't available. They can help you right there. And then while they're helping you, they have somebody else calling me to be able to get on there and work with you as well.
Yeah. And let's, here's a huge reason, and I'll speak for Maurice here, I'm sure, a little bit, but kind of the bottom line for us in Mercury is that we have a lot of people that rely on us for their service for their POS. And we have a lot of people that have ongoing contracts with us. They pay us a monthly fee. We provide your support. The reality is if we have a credit card processor that makes our helping you with support easier, faster, quicker, less problems, that means it's better for us. We don't spend as much time. We can help more of you. We can even make more money. If we have a great credit card processor that doesn't tie up your time with problems, which means it doesn't tie up our time, we don't end up in the middle of something between a credit card processor and you, the merchant, or the merchant, you end up, what feels like for you is you end up in the middle between the POS guys and the credit card processing guys. And that's why one of the big reasons we love Mercury. And last, let's talk about this whole idea a little bit, Maurice. Is your credit card processor dedicated to credit card processing? Now, this is kind of crazy in that well, of course they are, is your answer. Talk to us about this for a little bit, Maurice.
An instance that we had a couple of years ago was there was a company that was involved in processing credit cards. They mostly did the hardware side, so they bought this other company that actually did the transaction side, bottom up, had this very small percentage of their business was processing, and they were getting their PCI compliance. They had a breach, which basically is their software and their processing had a breach where a bunch of their information was dished out to the bad guys. And instead of fixing the breach and fixing the problem, why it happened, and getting recertified and taking care of everything, they said, you know what, we really don't want to deal with all the headache of processing, and they just turned off thousands of customers. They just said, here's the date, this is that we're turning off our servers. Once this gets turned off, you're not processing cards anymore, and unless you switch to somebody else. Mercury is dedicated. That was crazy. What they do,
let
me
talk about that for a little bit.
Okay.
Hey, Maurice, let me add a little bit there. That was crazy. We had customers calling us saying, I just got this. They're turning off my credit card processing. What do I do? Now, Maurice said it was a small part of their business. It was a small part of this company's business, but they had a ton of customers with it. The reason I say it was a small part of their business is that this was a mega conglomerate financial institution. They had all of this other financial things going on, thousands and thousands of independent retailers using their credit card processing, but to them, it wasn't worth it for them to become PCI compliant. What does PCI stand for again, Maurice?
It's payment card industry.
Yeah, okay. So the payment card industry comes up with these rules that basically says you have to have this security if you want to continue to process credit cards. Well, this huge institution said, well, we're not going to spend the money to make our system PCI compliant, so we're just turning it off. It was crazy. Mercury is a credit card processing company. That's where they make their money. That's what they're in business for. They do some things on the side, but credit card processing is their primary business. With what happened there a couple years ago, that's one of the biggest questions before we recommend any credit card processor to our clients anymore is we look and we make sure that credit card processing is really important to these people, or we're not going to recommend them. So what else? Did you have more to say on that, Maurice?
Oh, that's about it. I mean,
okay.
on the side note of the side things, Mercury has other services they offer, but it all ties right back into the credit card processing
as their core business then.
Exactly.
Excellent. So now, if you have any questions, if you don't know, is your credit card processing good, bad, or ugly, contact Maurice. There's the phone number. There's his email address. We'll leave that up for a minute or two here. And thank you for being here. And again, if you're interested in this end-to-end credit card processing that makes it impossible, at least today, for anyone to steal that credit card information, give Maurice a call and he'll get you in touch with our folks at Mercury. And again, whether you're using a point-of-sale system from us, our retail management system with Microsoft, QuickBooks, or anything else, give Maurice a call and he can help you out. Thank you for your time, Maurice. Thank you. I appreciate it. Take care.
Thank you.